see a large group of staff with us, and we want to thank all of them. Both Representative Sollman and Senator Bradley and I have staff that I'd like to have them wave their hands in the air. So if you need anything, everyone else. We would like to recognize the elected officials and our partners who have shown up to have a dialogue with us today. And so it's just really nice to see folks who are coming in either online or here in the room with us from the Metro Council, from the Washington County Board, and from all three city councils. We have folks here from Forest Grove, we have folks from Cornelius, and folks from Hillsborough. And as we know, we are the mighty Western Washington County community. So we're here together. Thank you. I also want to say that I see a lot of really people in uniform here, so I believe all of our police forces are here too, and if not all of them, at least some of them. So thank you for being with us today. We're going to be trying to do this in a way where we're not talking too long, and we are giving you an opportunity for questions, dialogue, and discussion. And so it's important for us to keep doing this. I want you to know how much I love Representative Sollman. I'm sitting down. I'm a speech teacher, and this is probably one of only 3 speeches in my life that I've given sitting down in a chair. But I will try very hard to be as relaxed as I can. And so it's important for you to know that for me, speaking means standing up, right? And really sure that you can be seen and heard and presenting yourself well. So students out there, and we'll have to make sure our interns are keeping this mum, okay? It's important for you to know that we've had 16 months just like you have, where we have been dealing with an awful lot, right? All of us together, the community. And it's statewide, and it's national, and it's worldwide. And there's nothing we can do to change what we were actually faced with. But what we have to do is to try and get back to the new normal in a way that helps us build community, economy, and the ability for our families to function well. And that is the goal for all 3 of us here tonight. And that's what's the goal of the state legislature for this wonderful session that we had and just finished of 6 months. There are many, many different types of bills that we have all worked on. And so I'm not going to talk to you about bill numbers. That's just not me. And I will talk about subject areas, and I will talk about where I spent my time working for you and all of the other communities that we have here in Western Washington County. I have large responsibilities in the area of education, and I am the co-budget chair for the Education Budget Committee. And we worked diligently this year in a wide variety of different ways because we were coordinating with federal dollars that were coming to the state, federal dollars that were coming to school districts and universities, and federal dollars that were actually being handed out by counties. And so it's been extremely important for us to make sure that we were trying to fill gaps and that we were not going to be redundant in the way that we were trying to support and hand out those funds to others. So we'll talk more about ARPA funds a little bit later. Besides education, and there were many areas that I worked on, but because of having to be home with kids online, e-distant learning became a real thing. And even though we had had online schools and had some classes that were online, this was absolutely something completely different. And so we spent a lot of time trying to make sure we had budget resources and we had the opportunity for them to get what they needed to be able to be successful online. Also worked on summer learning. We gave $250 million to our communities for summer learning. Worked on charter schools, making sure that they were working toward better equity in their formulas, and that was a personal bill that passed. Also worked on workforce issues, apprenticeships, and making sure that we have students that are ready after they have finished their higher education, that they can find a job and a job that they can make a profession of. We worked really diligently with diversity issues. We worked with trying to make sure that we not only took care of our BIPOC communities, like our tribal communities, our Latinx, and also our Black, but also on trainer preparation and also professional growth for teachers overall. Transportation is my second area. I'm getting the signal of not talking too long. So I will just simply say that in transportation, there's a wide variety of issues, including the bi-state bridge, congestion management and congestion pricing, coordinating with the tri-county area and 23 cities and 3 counties on all of the important infrastructure from water to roads to transit and bike paths, and making sure that our kids get to school safely. That was almost just 5 minutes. Okay. So I'll come back and talk more about what I worked on later.
So I think I go next, and I'm Senator Chuck Riley, and I didn't have a light load this last session. I only had 4 committees. So I serve on the Revenue Committee and the Tax Expenditures Committee, and I chair the Labor and Business Committee and co-chair the Information Technology Committee. So that's my areas that I work on in general. I'm going to talk to you about a couple of bills. One bill that I've worked on or been working on this issue for a long time, and that's the predatory towing issue. This is not something that everybody knows about, but it's something that people who do know about know a lot about, and they're not happy. So I've been working on this for some time, and we now have good laws about towing. Unfortunately, it's easy to become a tower in the state. All you have to do is buy a tow truck and get a license for it. Not a license for a business, just a license for your truck, and you're in business. And that's a problem. So this session, I worked with the Attorney General's office, with the Towing Association, and with DMV, ODOT, and DMV, and every level of law enforcement, city, county, and state law enforcement, to work out something to make this towing issue go away. And what we came up with was a towing commission with the authority to license tow companies and to regulate those tow companies under the law that exists. This is something that we not terribly in the state. Colorado has a really good version of it, and that's the one we're talking. So that's a big one for me. It did pass the House and the Senate. It's sitting on the governor's desk waiting to be signed, and I hope she signed it. So that's one of the bills that I worked on a lot. The other bill that I worked on a lot is a bill this year is Senate Bill 299, Children's Service District. Let me ask you a question. How many of you have children or grandchildren between the ages of 0 and 18? All right, so a few. So have you found that child care and out-of-school programs are adequate and affordable? I hear some tearing. So the answer for at least some of you is no. The bill that I sponsored, and it's the 3rd time I sponsored it, passed the Senate 3 times and died in the House 3 times. Would create service districts. It honestly wouldn't create a service district. What it does is create the opportunity for citizens to petition and put on the ballot, let people in the community decide if they want to have this service district. And unfortunately, we had a lot of opposition, mostly from the city and county associations. They're concerned about competition. They don't want to share the ballot. They talk about compression. That's a little concern, but it's not a real concern. They'll tell you that it is, but it isn't real. We've looked at it seriously. Many areas in the state have no compression. Many have small compression. But that's a big bill. It died in the House again. We'll try it again. And I hope that everybody that can hear me will decide whether they think it's a good idea or not. And if they think it's a good idea, go and tell your city and council and county officials. There was a few of the bills that I worked on, mostly in the revenue and IT. I worked a lot on IT. I worked on the DMV transformation project. If you've been to the DMV office recently, you'll know the lines are a lot shorter. And that's because of the transformation project that we put in place. I'm close to my time, so I'm going to turn it over to.
Thank you so much. See, normally waking the room up because I have a big booming voice. So I really appreciate you all taking the time to be here tonight and to be here online. This is a true test. See, I knew I could boom it in there and let you hear it. This is a true test of us trying to be totally accessible so that we can get some folks at home and some folks that could come out tonight to this absolutely beautiful facility. How many of you, this is the first time being here? Isn't it gorgeous? Oh my gosh, wait a minute, yeah. Board of Director, Commission. Oh, right? Yeah, and the Park Director Department, but I was thinking of the commissioners though. Just really excited to be here. As my colleagues have pointed out, this has been an extremely tough year for everyone all around. And as I said the other day in a social media post, legislating is a team sport. And I myself am really fortunate to have really amazing team that helped me bring the work forward. We don't do this alone. As it was pointed out, all of us have such great support. I'm very fortunate to not only have high school interns, but college interns, and Nicole Vargas has been with me for, I think we've worked together for 3 years now. I have two that will be leaving. Mark Watson, he's a school board member here in Hillsborough. He has served as a legislative assistant. And Jenna Devenberg has been an intern with me for two sessions. And first she was a PCC intern and then came back as a Portland State. So Aiden and Brea and Lily's here. And Olivia Vargas, she's also a high school intern. She's leaving to go to college in Texas. So again, it's a team sport and I feel incredibly fortunate. I also want to say, I think that's going to be my theme of my talking points, which wasn't intentional, but now I'm going to go with that. So a lot of times people say, oh my gosh, legislation, and it's just like what's happening in Salem is like what's happening in Washington, D.C., right? It's crazy, nothing gets done. You couldn't be farther from the truth. To give you an idea, this is just the House side. Sorry, Chuck, we pulled this information. On the House side, we passed 743 bills, and 378 of those were unanimous, and that's 50%. 291 of them were bipartisan. More than 3 Republicans voted for it, that's 39%. 35 were bipartisan, with 4.7%, and 39 were on a party line vote, which was 5.2%. And so 95% of the bills passed were either unanimous or bipartisan. And so again, that is your legislators working together. And I'm really proud of the work that we were able to accomplish for House District 30 and be involved in. And again, we work with our colleagues to do this work. I was really fortunate to have the city Hillsborough School District come forward and ask for assistance around school-based health centers and how they could perhaps open opportunity for mobile support, for mobile clinic versus a brick and mortar. And we were able to do that, and that we connected with Rachel, Representative Rachel Prusak, to also involve some telehealth opportunities for school nursing and things like that as well. So very proud of that bill. The firefighter apprenticeship bill, you wouldn't see it as a, like if you put the bill number through, which don't test me, I think it's 2373. If you put that through, it looks like it's dead. But you need to understand that that bill is actually funded through Ways and Means. It will provide 3 different counties with apprenticeship opportunities, real living wage jobs for firefighters. We really saw the issue down in Phoenix and Talent. It was very, very destructive to those mobile home parks where they didn't have enough structural firefighters that were able to help. So really proud to work with a firefighter, Representative Dacia Graver, to really get that across the fire line. And then Senator Denbrough, working with him from Portland, working on the Senate Bill 582, which is the modernization of the Recycling Modernization Act, which again was the city of Hillsborough priority. I was very proud to be working. I'm already at 5 minutes. So I'm very proud to be working on that because as a Metro Master Recycler, that has been incredibly important to me that we reduce plastic and we work on plastic reduction. So one of the big changes for this is that we will see that the producers hold a part of the pay on this, right? They're going to have to pay into the system for the junk and the plastic that they produce, which I am so excited about. I'm serious, I cried. So there's lots of other ones. So we'll get through that. Maybe we'll touch base in some of the questions that will come through. And again, thank you all for being here and thank you for being here online and welcome.
So thank you for the overview of the legislative session. And we're going to change gears here and jump into the recovery funds, the ARPA funds, and we will go into that. And then, like Representative Sollman said, during the Q&A session, we'll hopefully address people's questions on specific bills or issues that we have. Senator Riley, if you would give an overview, please.
Yeah, very quickly. Every representative got $2 million that they could help people in their area of the state, and each senator got $4 million that they could work with. Many of the senators and representatives in the state worked by themselves and went out and found the things that they wanted to get done, and that's a good method as any. We decided to do things a little differently. We decided we'd work together, the 3 of us, and make sure that we covered all the things that we wanted to do. Well, we didn't, but we got as much as we could, and we didn't want to leave any money on the table, so we combined so that we could get things funded that needed to be funded. But we worked together to do this, and so I'm going to let everybody talk about their piece that they ended up doing. But again, it was a combined effort, and the 3 of us who worked together.
We only had 3 weeks to do it. And so it was one of those things where we had to get folks to get their work done to bring us some requests. And I think that was important. Did you want to go first? Oh, okay. So I want to let you know, because Janeen and I will never have enough time to tell you everything that we think is important. So all 3 of us want you to know that there is a list that has a list of all the session highlights and all the different areas that we weren't able to talk about tonight. Each one of us individually can also give you a list of all the bills that we personally passed and or worked on. And we also have some highlights on the different projects for ARPA that we are going to tell you about now. So if you want those by email or you want a copy of them, we're happy to get those to you. And our staff is here to help us logistically handle that. I was fortunate enough to get to turn in, because each of us could only turn in 4 projects. And so we each chose how to do that so that we could get every single cent. as the senator pointed out, we want to leave a nickel on the table. And so the ones that I was fortunate enough to get to turn in was $160,000 for Avalon Harris. And it's a really wonderful program where they are working on food relief funding for the food pantry and food relief vouchers for use at the farmer's market and local farmer support and purchase of early childhood meals. And they're also working on the related costs to farmers markets and educational capital infrastructure expenditures. So we're really excited about that because we think it brings more food security to Western Washington County. Center Cultural is getting $660,000, and Center Cultural, as you know, is a nonprofit, and they have sites in a number of different places, but primarily their location is in Cornelius, and that's where their main center is. And they are purchasing a commercial building to enable food services and meal preparation, and also to do sort of a market-like approach with some of our food support, so that we can actually have an opportunity for people to come in and choose what food they're going to take in some of these programs. And so I think it's a pretty exciting way for many folks in our community to get, again, some more security in their lives. The Forest Grove Foundation is getting $680,000, and those funds are going to be to upgrade the Forest Grove Inn, recently purchased with Oregon Community Foundation grant of $2.2 million. And that's going to help us with our hospice folks in the community. And we'll also have monies hopefully this is part of the Western Washington County group that I go to as often as I can, and Carolyn attends when I can't be there, but we have more showers we'd like to provide to the community, mobile services, resources, waste management and cleanup and acquisition to continue working with families homeless, with our youth that are homeless, and also with adults. And so we're really excited about those 4 projects, and those are the ones that I basically was able to help with. I have 45 seconds left, and so I am going to use and Vienna Star basically is the Vienna Star program, I believe, is $500,000. And so that is working and operating in both Cornelius and Forest Grove. And this is to help with covered year-round multi-purpose hard surface court for the Plaza Los Amigos. And it's with a new 113-unit mobile family affordable housing project in Cornelius. And so it's just exciting to really have all of those different projects coming on board hopefully soon. Money's coming in about October. We're going to help you with that process, and we've sent out an email recently about that. Thank you.
Again, I would say too that, I think that it was really beneficial for the Senate district and our 2 House districts to really pool our money together because we could only invoice for 4 projects. So if I wanted to help with a project that Senator Riley was working on, or likewise, that would each, and then we split something, that would take each. So instead, one of us would do it, and then we were able to fund so much more. And as Representative McLain said, the list is very solid. So very excited that we were able to look at really giving support for the city of North Plains. North Plains will receive $1.2 million for a pedestrian pathway for safety between their new elementary school and downtown area. If you go along West Union, there is no sidewalk. So this will be a bike and pedestrian pathway that we were able to help support. Also, we're going to be renovating and helping renovate the Jesse Mays Community Park area. That is their one central area community center. I'm very excited to be to be able to help with that. And then my little green heart is very excited, not Grinchy, but environmental. That I'm really excited that we were able to pool our money for the Hillsborough School District and provide 2, possibly more electric buses, school buses for the Hillsborough School District. So very excited about that. Beaverton already has some, so we were very excited to be able to support Hillsborough. We also supported Habitat for Humanity. So we have a board member here with Kimberly. $1.7 million for a project that is happening off of Century Boulevard that is affordable housing. And I mean, serious goosebumps, how exciting that we're going to permanent housing. Thank you. Yeah, permanently affordable, permanent housing. Absolutely. Did you mention the senior center? Okay, the Forest Grove Senior Center, $300,000 upgrades to their community center as well. And then the APANO, the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon, we were able to provide $500,000 for a property acquisition fund. So they're collecting money so that they can go out and buy property areas and then be able to do some affordable housing for their community, which is incredibly exciting. And then $500,000 to the Family Promise of Washington County to again help our houseless community in Hillsborough with renovating their day center. So we're excited about that. And then providing $200,000 to the Hillsborough Schools Foundation for their bilingual career kits. The Hillsborough Schools Foundation is an excellent partner for our school kids in the Hillsborough School District, and this will again help them increase and broaden that access for students to be able to really see their future and experience that. So I do think that covered all of those. As you see, it's just a real wide depth of variety, and we are very, very honored to be serving you to be able to do that. So.
I also want to say that we got some complaints that it was all nonprofit. And so I want you to understand that we believe that putting money into these particular nonprofit actual projects are going to help businesses because it puts more money and it brings more economic vitality to the communities. And we want you to know that we've helped small businesses with actual bill work and with grants with the Oregon Business Agency of the state. And if you want to know what those small business bills are, they're on the highlight list. And again, we're happy to get that to you. So if anybody from the small business area has questions for you about, you know, what and where did we get support from the state, you'll be able to help us pass out that message. So thank you.
So you'll notice that I don't have a lot to say. I'm a cleanup, but and Janeen did mention all the ones that I worked on. In fact, my $4 million went, $1 million went to the city of North Plains for the two projects that she mentioned. $1 million for Hillsborough School District projects. 1.7 million for Habitat for Humanity, and 300,000 for Forest Grove Senior and Community Center. These are all things that we all looked at and said, here are the things that we want to work on, and these are the ones that I got to put my money behind. So that's really it for the ARPA funds, unless and when we get into question and answer, someone might ask more questions, but that's really the meat of it. We did some, what I think are some good work. We were lucky to be able to do it. We were really happy to be able to put money into our local communities where we think it's needed. So with that, I'm not going to take my 4 minutes, and we can move on to the next part of the program.
And that will be the Q&A session. So this is going to be your opportunity to ask questions. We do have tickets to draw out for those people. We're asking folks to hold with one question so that everybody has an opportunity. And if we still have time, we'll come back around and do another one. In addition, we will be alternating between the questions here in the live versus the ones on Zoom, so that those folks also get to have their opportunity. They need to be typing their questions into the chat. And Linda, do you have a ticket?
You should be like, Price is Right excited.
Hello. My name is Ryan McLain. I'm here today on behalf of the road workers at UC Market. I'm here in solidarity support from the Oregon Nurses Association for the EOC Local 555 and County. Today, talking to folks about what has gone on with the stores while road workers are working. While the doors and sales were closed or locked, we were out there to the grocery stores open. We make sure the line is kept open. We make sure that you guys can get groceries, and we're darn proud that we did it. More of us died this year, more of us got sick this year than years before. Our personal health on the line, and health on the line, and many workers are scared every day. And what that did to us, mentally speaking, being berated by customers who are hostile, often maskless, was not a good situation. We lost a lot of good leads to managers that workers. My question today is, why haven't any sponsored House Bill 3409 that should recognize the risk and sacrifice that we take our great state to make sure that we don't.
So thank you for that. And we're really proud of you and your work. I've always been a big supporter of the unions you mentioned. And we do recognize that you put yourselves at risk, and along with the healthcare community. You were just as much or more at risk as them. It was yeoman's work, and we do appreciate it. I wish we were able to get something fast for you. Unfortunately, it didn't come to where we could actually get it done. I appreciate what you've done. I wish we could have done more.
If I could say just one more thing, it's not that we didn't want to do it, and there were people in the building, and you know that from the union support that we had, working on it diligently. There are many particular types of issues. There's the minimum wage relates to this. The federal dollars that were coming to us as relief dollars relates to this. We also have the issue with having to deal with unemployment and the different types of unemployment, including contracting opportunity for unemployment. And it was the complexity that caused it not to get done in the 6 months. And that's not an excuse, and it's not a reason for you to be walking out of here happy. It's a reason for you to be here and say, don't forget, and get back to work. And you've got a short session coming in 7 months. So we understand that essential workers deserve battle pay, and it was like battle pay. And we have nurses, and we have firemen, and we have frontliners like yourself. And we really appreciate you, and we want you to know that it's on the top of our list of non-finished work.
And I'll add to, thank you so much as a former UFCW union worker myself. Worked back when I was younger. I do sincerely appreciate when I have gone into the stores and we saw what people were dealing with, what people, how people were reacting to folks just doing their job. And it was, we did completely feel that and heard that. We also, I think we heard it from so many others as well. So it's the part two of, and I think that Senator Riley mentioned too, the healthcare workers, the firefighters, the first responders, and everything. Absolutely putting yourself out there. As I spoke to somebody who was a first responder who said they didn't have a choice and asked somebody, do you have COVID? Because I can't, they had to suit up every single time, triple layer, and head out there and help the person on the other end of the line. Or with our home health care workers as well, spoke to them as well, going out every day, taking care of elderly. Talk about heartbreaking stories. We heard the stories where we knew home health care workers who had passed because taking care of somebody who had COVID. So, so again, it's not that we were not uncaring in that situation and understanding or felt that. It really just came down to unprecedented times of need, as well as an enormous amount of money there was coming in through ARPA funds that was asked for in different areas, in many different areas. Several of us even had bills that made it through to the Ways and Means process, but died just in Ways and Means, just simply because of time. I just wanted to share those thoughts with you as well, so.
Okay, so at this point, while the folks out in Zoom land are putting their thoughts together for a question, we'll take another question here. So Linda, another ticket.
Okay, passport 0207.
This is more of a comment and a thank you than a question. Representative Sollman's office, including maybe her whole staff, was very helpful to Jan and I in getting our shots. The urgency there was not that we wouldn't help the deserve the first, but it gave me an opportunity. Yeah, no, but the other was the staff also.
For online, we had one of our folks, Al Young, who wanted to thank one of the offices for help with both the shots and where to get a vaccination, and also with unemployment. And I want to thank all of our staff again, because quite frankly, they had to become experts in both vaccination, mapping, and also with unemployment details and federal guidelines on how and when you are qualified for unemployment. But thank you, Al. All of our staff has really worked hard on that. We figured it in the first 7 months, we put in close to 50% of our day on unemployment.
Okay, so Linda, go ahead.
Last four digits, 0208. You need my ticket?
No.
I was, my question is actually for Chuck. I'm pretty sure you would have this answer. What did you do about taking tax loopholes out of the taxation for big business? And then the thing is that the money that they pay means that we all, the state, gets more stuff to be able to spend on. And they pay their fair share. They pay their fair share, or we get started with that. That started with doing nothing.
So to repeat the question somewhat, what do we do, what did we do, to get rid of loopholes for big business and taxation? And we've done a lot in the last 2 or 3 sessions, with, the, Schools Act that we put together, the Student Success Act, where, we ask big foreign businesses, corporations, to spend a little bit more of their money to help schools and students get their education. And that was the biggest one, issue that we had as far as taxation of corporations and big business. We actually gave one more tax break to small businesses, and I'm proud that we were able to do that. Small businesses are the heart of this state. And we try our best to make sure that small businesses are able to make it and to stay in business and grow. It's not easy, and it's not easy in the best circumstances to start and run and maintain a small business. So we understand that and try to help where we can. But we did do the Student Success Act, and not this session, but the session before, and made some changes to it in this session to improve it. That's the biggest area.
The only other thing I would say, it wasn't the session to do it. We had so many other challenges and we had so many time challenges. We worked on both some taxing and some revenue issues, including looking at our timber industry and looking at some of the different types of sectors that we feel have a need for an update of the tax system. And that in an update, they're going to get fairness, they're going to get equitability, and they're also going to be able to deal with what their sector is like right now. We want whatever we collect from businesses to be something that is affecting them in a way that keeps them whole and keeps them doing the good things that they're doing for our economy and the state. So yes, they need to pay their fair share, but they also need to have a fair break. And whether it's ag or whether it's timber or whether it's tech and intel, we want to make sure that we look at all of those and that we're doing a good job of that. But we've got revenue folks and tax folks that are working in the interim on some things that they're bringing back to us in the short session.
Okay, we have a question from the Zoom. What decisions made regarding wildfire suppression might be implemented in Western Washington County?
Now you're gonna make me have to look at my book, you know, I mean, and I have to go through like 150 pages to make sure that I have the right answer. So I'm going to give you the short answer and say, we're looking into this, Carolyn. And so let us know who online wanted to have answered that question. The one thing that I would say is that we've been working on smoke damage type of support. We had schools in the Canyon area in Clackamas County, even the Hagg Lake, although we didn't have as many structures that had smoke damage in the Hagg Lake area. But we are working in the Tri-County area, especially in Clackamas County, because they did have a lot of smoke damage to both public buildings and schools. And we also are working on giving dollars to schools, and there's about 11 to 15 schools in the next 3 years to help them with their building, with their maintenance, and with trying to get through some of the layers of ways that they were harmed during these fires a year ago, September. But as far as suppression, we passed a plan. It's a large plan. It's statewide, and it is a plan that has a lot of different areas of trying to make sure that both public buildings and businesses and residential places have this defensible space around their homes. And there is a lot of definitional debate and discussion about what definitional types of language we had in that bill that allows for folks to do what they want and need around their own homes and their business, but also allow the firemen to do their job and be able to protect them when there is a breakout in a fire. And so that is like a 125-page bill, but I promise to go back and look for some specifics, and we'll try maybe to get them out in our newsletter next week. So thank you.
And I want to say, one of the things that happened, and Susan mentioned it, it's the issue of, what's the right stuff to do? There's no agreement between the people who are out there in the fire area and the firefighters. There's all kinds of disagreement about what should we do about that safe space around houses. People want the nice trees and nice shrubbery, and they want it pretty around their houses. I understand that. But when you have those nice trees and that nice shrubbery, you also have a higher fire hazard. And one of the problems we run into now that we didn't used to run into in the legislature, since we're putting annual sessions, what we did was we limited the number of days that we can work each year. And so we didn't reduce the number of bills, but we reduced the number of days that we can work on. And so that's not an excuse, but it is a reality. When we get into controversy on any bill near the end of the session, it's a problem. We don't have time to work all of it out and get it right, and if we can't get it all right, sometimes we put it in and then work on it later. Sometimes we say, we don't have this right, let's do it next time.
I think that I would add too that, Senate Bill 762, I think Aiden was just asking me this yesterday, like in the district, he's been over the new college interns, and he was like, in the district, what are we doing to address the wildfire issues? And it's just as Representative McLain said, our districts have mostly been affected through that situation with smoke. We didn't have the misfortune of what people are dealing with. The bootleg fire in Southern Oregon is the largest wildfire in the nation right now. I think that between the excessive heat temperatures that we are seeing, if anything, my hope is that we continue to raise the conversation that climate change is real. Because we are going to continue to see, and I might not be able to answer that in the same way to Aiden again, because the fires will continue to grow. They will continue to get worse as we continue to build and go out into areas that maybe have been more rural. I know that we all struggle too. There was a bill that was about expanding housing in Eastern Oregon along the Snake River, high ledge, high cost housing, as an affordable housing. But one of the issues was water. And so the thought of when you bring people into those areas and you have fire, how are you fighting it? So I think that Senate Bill 762 came out and became bipartisan. That was one of those bills that we were able to talk about, how it became bipartisan, and nearly $200 million in investments for the state of Oregon. And we had Dacia Graver working on that, Representative Evans working on, so countless that really worked tirelessly for that. And my only hope is that we continue to elevate this conversation about climate change, because we're going to see it in flames and we're going to see it in drought, and we have to address.
Janeen just gave me a really good idea, but I need to mention rulemaking. We had an amendment right at the end that helped that be a bipartisan fire bill. And part of it was that we did finally take the amendment that said they wanted more definition of defensible space, and they wanted to work that out, not just in the bill language, but in rules. And that's another place where you can be very impactful. If you see that there's going to be a bill, then you should ask us, where is the rules process and how do I get involved? Because that is where we really need public and we need expertise, whether it's police expertise or fire expertise or business expertise. We need expertise in making sure that the rules and guidelines are really working for the bill in this situation. But that's another place for the public really to get involved.
And while we're mentioning, Janeen mentioned some folks who worked on this, the person in the Senate who worked on this the hardest and really made it happen in the Senate was Senator Jeff Golden, from Southern Oregon. He worked tirelessly on wildfire issues, and I just wanted to mention his name, in this regard.
And again, this is a team sport, so thank you, Aiden, for the quick response of looking at the state of Oregon. The speaker did a press release and said that there was like $600 million in investments across Oregon this session with wildfire relief and wildfire mitigation. And I think we all have heard too, and I thank our first responders and our firefighters and folks that are here as well, because they're talking about that on the news right now, how you're having to bring in firefighters from other areas, other states, probably even further than states. I think at one point we had Canadians coming down as well to fight this. And so that's why one of the things I was really proud to work with Daisy Braver on that firefighter apprenticeship, because it brings in that opportunity to work on knowing that it's not just wildfires that we are fighting, it's the structural as well because of the rural, moving into rural areas. But, you know, Senator Golden and Representative Marsh are really feeling that right now in Southern Oregon.
Okay, Linda, you're up.
Last four numbers, 0216.
So I just wanted to thank you in solidarity with the interpreters in the state of Oregon for passing HB 2359. Well, that was passed bipartisanly, I believe, and that was quite a success. Was when I invited them to go and they said they would support them. They had to stay.
We want to repeat that for folks online. There was an interpreter bill that passed this time, and this is an example of where we didn't get it right 5 years ago. We didn't get it right 4 years ago, but finally this year the bill passed, and I think it's a solid policy. It was worth the wait, and we were able to deal with it as it connected to the pandemic. So the interpreter bill is very important for us to be inclusive in our public meetings at all levels. And we really appreciate the interpreters that are here to serve us tonight, whether we needed them or not. They're here, and we want that to happen in all meetings, all times, so that folks can feel as if they can be involved. So thank you for being here, and thank you for being interpreters.
See, this is one of those opportunities where you take your, life experience or people within your, your circle and really get behind those. My sister-in-law is an ASL interpreter and told me the stories, and so I really was very proud to support this bill as well. So, and thank you so much for being here.
So we have another question from the Zoom room. This one's for Senator Riley, asking about Senate Bill 703 and Senate Bill 714. If you could comment on those, and I'm sorry I did not pull them up in the meantime, but I will look at them too.
Honestly, I don't remember much about that bill. That wasn't something I worked on hard, so I don't recall actually. So it was a bill to add a healthcare worker to, what was it, the insurance? Was it the insurance agency that was added? Do you remember? I don't have that bill with me, but I know it was adding a healthcare worker to one of the agencies.
I'm sorry. As a direct care worker or representative of direct care workers, quality measurement with council. We don't have to do that to you on the.
There were almost 4,000 bills. So, okay, this is 0, the other one is 714.
7-1. This one is requires the Department of Human Services to establish a specified requirement for use of a computer-based staffing tool by residential care facilities.
So yeah, this bill, I wasn't a Wayne sponsor, but I did sponsor it when I heard about it. I thought it was a good fit. It added, required the Department of Human Services to establish specified requirements for use of computer-based staffing to residential care facilities. And honestly, I don't know a lot about it. This is by Senator Gelser and Patterson and Manning. They were the chief sponsors. I saw the bill, they talked to me about it, and said, here's what it does. I don't remember what they said. But it sounded good at the time, and I signed off.
Is there any more Zoom? Linda?
Digits 0215.
I'm thinking.
Refresh your man.
What's it not being, what is it? 215?
One, yes.
That is.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you so much, all of you, for being here tonight. Like the other gentleman, mine's not a question, it's a compliment and a comment to all three of you. I am amazed at what I just heard tonight, for the work that you guys have been able to accomplish and bring funds and resources back to Washington County. That tells me the political capital that we have here in Washington County. So, that's an applause, please. Comment is just the political elected officials that are here. Thank you very much for getting the dam to come out here and hear about what we're up to. So thank you very much for the political capital that we're gaining here. Say yay, say law.
I think it's pretty exciting that in Capitol, we have a Multnomah County caucus and we have a Clackamas County caucus, and we are now revving and getting real strong as a Washington County caucus, because we realize collectively the experience that we bring, and we realize we're the economic engine of the state, and we really need to collectively work together to help promote that. And we work with Chair Harrington and her staff coming together, giving us priorities and giving us opportunities to work at the county level too, because it truly does take a village. Let's all work together.
Zero 210.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Strahan, and I am with Ryan. I'm also a grocery store worker for New Seasons Market. I did want to just add a few things to what he said. He already spoke pretty eloquently on it. I actually joined the team during the pandemic, so this is my normal. Because the unemployment, I did not get my unemployment until April of 2021 for March 2020. So it took over a full year for me to get my unemployment. I did want to point out that as appreciative as we are of everybody, we were bumped down from the vaccine priority list several times, and most of us were not able to get our first shot for our vaccine until it was opened up to the general public. By the time the state reopened, several of us still have not even received a second dose. My question in regards to this is, in the future, if there was another, if you'd be willing to sponsor another House Bill like 3409, or if there would be any sort of protections put in place for grocery store workers, especially given the fact that today we passed 22,000 hospitalization cases, which is the highest in almost 3 months, and Los Angeles County had to go back onto a mask mandate.
Well, first of all, the question that you asked that I think is the most important is, what next? What can pass? And so there are two things that you brought up. One is pay and having extra pay for the extra risk. And two is dealing with making sure that the PPE that's necessary and needed is available. I think we've learned a lot in this first part of the pandemic. I think you're right, it's not done. And that we will continue on to try and help with having better emergency management coordination. And we did pass a very large bill that Representative Paul Evans from the Salem area worked on that helps us coordinate the different agencies, the governor's office, and really helps us have the network in much better shape than it was 16 months ago. So it's continuing those types of improvements. Unemployment that you brought up is another example, and that is the fact that it wasn't just old computer programs. It was the fact that we went from 70,000 people on unemployment to over 400,000 people on unemployment, and it was like overnight. And it's not acceptable to have to wait a year. And that was with 90 legislative offices, plus the whole Department of the Unemployment area, working, some of them 6-7 days a week, and some of them 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And so again, we have to build the infrastructure and continue to improve the infrastructure that actually produces and provides those checks when they are necessary to our public. And so we have a lot of questions and thoughts in there. But my first one is, what's next? We need to get an interim work group, and your unions are well set up to be the ones to help us set the table to make sure we can figure out what can pass. There is some desire to improve the systems. We'll continue doing that as part of our own basic work. But as far as the extra pay, that's something we need to set a table, and we need to invite the right people to it. And I think we need to decide, if you want to call any of our offices, we're happy to help with that. I think I have some ideas, starting with the House and the Senate chairs that are on the economic committees that handle some of this work, is where we need to get them interested in being at the table as well. Because in a short session, we have only three types of bills that the committee can put forward. So there's like 3 to 5 committee bills. And so what you want is, you want it to be a committee bill. Because to be a committee bill, hopefully there'll be more bipartisan work at the beginning. So that's my thought.
And you mentioned the unemployment, you're taking so long to get your check. And I sit on the oversight committee for the unemployment restructuring that we're going through to try to make this better next time. And so I'll be working really hard to make sure that that doesn't happen once we get this stuff in place, and we're going to get it in place as fast as we can. So again, I sit on that board, the oversight committee, and I'll be working hard on it.
And I want to say that I realize that the request and the ask for that bill is critical in the timing because of where we are in the pandemic and the support that's needed. But I want to just echo on what I had written down, as Representative McLain was speaking, is that the power is in that table, is pulling the folks together to have a work group, to have a discussion. Many of us have had bills that we've worked on for a long time that just have not crossed a finish line or crossed a pathway. And so I have a bill about right to repair, which I'm super stoked is getting federal attention right now in an executive order. So, but that, I could not get it. And we had worked, Nicole and I had been involved in a work group for a year on that. And we had folks at that table. But I think it's really critical when you have something, you know, because it was complex, because a lot of the questions that came forward were, how do we distribute the payment? How do you determine if somebody worked so many part-time or full-time? Or all these different things that were coming up that really needed to be really gelled within a work group and have that solid concept to bring something forward. So I would really encourage, you know, reaching out to UFCW and all the others that you had mentioned and said, let's formulate, let's put that table together, you know, and continue that conversation and that work.
Before we take the next question, another thing that came up to mind is Janeen was giving us speaking starts. And one of the things is that we have to be flexible too. There was a bill that I got passed this time. It didn't look like it passed. My bill, 3007, doesn't show up passed anywhere. But it was a bill for part-time faculty health care. And they've been trying to do it for 12 years. We had an identical bill on the Senate side from a senator who had worked on it off and on for 12 years, and he couldn't get it passed. And it was a situation where we had done all the work, we'd done all the table work, we'd gotten all of the advocacies and going in one direction. We had, I had so many people on that bill. It was the biggest, best bipartisan bill you've ever seen, but it didn't get anywhere. So then I had to go to the tri-chairs and say, you know, but this is important. And we talked and talked, and finally they said, we think it's important too, but we hate that bill. So go talk to the universities, go talk to the community colleges, figure it out. So I said, you want me to put all my hard work on the side, put my two bills on the side, but you want me to go talk to more people, okay? I'll go talk to more people. But we did, and you know, we all said the same thing. It's time. We need the dollars for the healthcare. Let's do it any way they're willing to give us that money. So now guess what? I've got another job for the next year. Now I've got to make sure that what we agreed to, what the advocates agreed to and what the universities agreed to, and the money is sitting in account of the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. And now I'll be working with them on making sure that those 1,700 people get quality health care, but we got the money. So sometimes you take a half a step forward and then you give yourself more work to get it there. But we're going to do it, and we can do that with you too. But you've got to start with the basic work, and we've got to finish up the discussion at the table. One of the things is, what's the definition of an essential worker? Because that is the base foundational one, and that was the one that stumbled us up every time we walked into any room. So we've got to get around the table, what is an essential worker and how much money do we have? And as a budget person, realize that the money is going to stop flowing from the federal government on some level. And so then we're back to reality and roll-up costs and how do we keep it going? So the time limit on how long essential workers get that pay is also an issue.
Next number, 0211. Yes. How about that?
Hi, my name is Stephen, and I have a question that's transportation related. What role does the state legislature play in regard to trying that oversight? Liability, full availability,
Well, first of all, TriNet was created by the legislature, and their structure was created by the legislature with connection to Metro. And both Catherine Harrington and our roles when we were district representatives for this area got to vote on things that had to do with the TriNet. But as far as the day-to-day operations, that is really a connected board situation. where they have a board and they have advice from the board. They have, their own, financial schema, and there's connections to the state, there's connections. We work with them on basically some funding. The 2017 Joint Transportation Committee put the first state money toward transit statewide, and TriMet is one of the folks that basically, got those dollars. As far as, last mile issues, which to me is the number one issue, the bus routes only go so far, they only go so often, they only come so often. And so we get input just like everybody else, all the other partners, Metro, state, the cities, the counties, public advocacy groups are surveyed, are asked to be brought into their, their open houses. But it really is an agency that was created by the state, but has its own structure and its own board. Would you agree with that, Catherine?
So just to tell you how little influence each of us has over that, I've been trying for 14 years to extend the light rail to Forest Grove. And I've had people tell me, oh yes, it's the next thing on the list. And it's been the next thing on the list for 14 years.
I will say one other thing about safety. We do have some, at the state, we have these safety committees. And right now, one of the safety issues that I'm, the cities and the counties that have TV highway in their jurisdiction are thinking about, it drives me crazy to drive between Cornelius and Hillsborough, where we've had some deaths and some real tragedies, and see two bus stops on both sides of that highway. And of course, how are we getting across? They want to go back the other way, they cross the road, and that's a highway. And so we have put out some emails and some letters over the last year talking about the fact that we hope that this new federal money that has come in will consider location and lighting around bus stops, and also about the differences between a bus stop on a regular residential road and a bus stop that's on a highway, because they're vastly different. So we're all wishing that we could help more, be more in charge, but we all are important in that conversation.
I think something that's interesting to me, and Representative McLain touched on it, was a safety issue. Both of my boys graduated from Liberty High School, and Liberty High School is the only high school in Hillsborough School District that is not served by the TriMet bus area. So they kids, if they perhaps miss the school bus and they need to try to get to school and their parents work, they need to figure out to get as close as they can and then walk over that overpass and get to school. That is a safety issue. It's also an access issue because, Liberty has a lot of events. So in order to try to get people to those events, right? Also you have research, you have Amazon, you have all of those companies that are coming into North Hillsborough that are relying on shuttles from the Aramco Max station to get their workers, or Ride Connection, which I've done a ride along with Ride Connection, not to get to a place, but just because I was curious about it. So I said, can I hitch a ride and see this and be able to see the commuters and folks that were making it? Because one of the stories I heard was about even the safety of the workers, like the Reese's, there was the schedule and how when the bus line would stop, and that there were women that were walking alone for like a mile to get to another spot. So then they had to reconfigure and try to figure out how do we keep people safe. And so I think that's where the great thing is when we work in connection with the local cities who also are working with that, and our counties, as well as knowing our legislative, affairs person at TriMet to keep those phone lines going, to be able to say, this is a safety issue. And it's a school attendance issue, and it's a school, community engagement issue, it's a workforce issue. So I hope for more electric buses too.
Next question, 0212. Oh,
I can talk loud. Does it work?
It helps.
Okay. First, thank you, and for all your work, and I'm involved with Emerge, and we have conversations. Thank you. I like the bills that it passed. But I have one question, and it's, first of all, I do not believe in defunding the police. That rubs me wrong. The officers, I think you do a great job, but I think you need help, and I really support the Cahoots bill. And now, is that not funded, or how far along is it? Is it done? Okay. So thrilled about that, and I also had a question about the farm pay. I understand the difficulty with overtime pay, but is there a way to ensure they get a decent hourly wage?
Two great ones. So the first one was about mental health response for folks in the community versus having a first responder or police response. How can we provide more models like the Cahoots model, which is CAHOOTS, look at that through Eugene. It's been a 30-year program. I was an incredible proud chief sponsor of 2417, which will provide $10 million in grants across the state of Oregon to really build those opportunities. Washington County has a great response that they've been working in, Portland has. So really trying to make sure that people who need that get the right response. And I think one of the other things was the 988. So instead of calling 911, if somebody's in a mental health crisis, we're going to soon have the ability to call 988 and get a mental health response to people. So I just have to praise Representative Sanchez of Behavioral Health. Wow, I was on this committee and I'm goosebumps again. I tell you, it was just such an honor to work with her and to learn from her and to really understand what she was working with and promoting that and brought Representative Marchant and I on board, and it was incredible. So I'm very proud of that. And as the farm, I'll just touch on the farm overtime really quickly and pass it on. I know that is a concern of people. The question was about how do we pass overtime pay for farm workers so that they're able to get more pay for the hours that they put in. And I know that was another one that was a lengthy conversation of the ifs and the whens and the hows. And as well as one of my concerns on that too was listening to some of the folks who were concerned about like a farm potentially capping and not paying overtime, which would then force them to go to work at a second farm as well. And so then it becomes a real safety issue. So I think there was a lot of conversation that needed to happen on there. And I think there's real commitment to continue that conversation. Representative Ruiz has really delved in and worked with Teresa Alonso Leon and really working to make sure that they're addressing those issues and Representative Salinas as well, and working with Cocoon to make sure that we're addressing safety issues. Very proud of, I'm sorry, I could go on. I was going to talk about the OSHA requirements coming in after the excessive heat. OSHA acted and came in and said something needs to be done to protect these very critical workers. And then I'll stop, I'm sorry, because I see everybody leaving.
So I wanted to talk about the farm workers a little bit because it's really an important issue. And it's something we really need to work out. But I want to say there are a lot of farmers who do the right thing, a lot of them. And I think we can't talk about farm issues that are problems without recognizing that, like every other issue, there are people doing the right thing and there are people not doing the right thing. And the people doing the right thing just get swept into it, and people talk about them as farmers as if they're all doing the wrong thing. They're not. There are many, many farmers that I know, and I know all of us know some who are doing the right thing. And I just want to make sure that that's said.
Okay, both of these bills are something we have to talk about because they're with us in our heart. I mean, you know, the things that we want to work on. And understand that all of us can't be chief sponsors of every bill, but most of us are sponsors of these bills because these are important bills and they're not done. I do want to say on justice first, there are 11 bills that were major reforms that dealt with both policing, with our courts and the justice system, including police. And we are really proud of those. It's not done. There's more to do. We have great partners with our law enforcement and with our first responders, but we're getting there. And again, if you want to have this passed, you can look at all 11 bills and see exactly what happened and what went on. Juvenile justice is also a very important piece to me, and we worked on some juvenile justice items in the education area. And so that's another area that if you're interested in, we can give you more information. But to the farm workers, just like every other worker rights, those are fundamental. We don't have workers. You ask employers right now that can't find workers. If we don't have workers, nothing works. Okay, right? And so it's important for us to deal with the different sectors, the different workers, and making sure that they have the essentials, they have safety, and they have appropriate pay. The farm worker bill was not ready. We had wonderful advocates from Cocoon. We had wonderful advocates from the farm workers themselves. But that bill also needs a bigger, longer table. And you've got people like the three that are sitting in front of you that want to vote for a good policy bill. And we want to work for safety and for good pay. But there's so many different types of ways that farm and agricultural workers are paid. Is it piecework? Is it hourly work? Are they on salary? Just even those three classifications right there makes it so much more complex. So it's extremely important that all of you that care about that farm worker bill, talk to Cocoon, talk to the farm workers, talk to the unions. And let's make sure that we set that table quickly. We needed July. We're ready to fall over, okay? But starting in August is when those work groups are going to start, and we need to do it in August. We need to get started. So if you're involved, if you want to be involved, then let's get going.
One more ticket to address. So the next one is 0206. Actually, from utility, unusual, my question. If you want people. Next up, 0214.
I think you guys have mentioned, sorry, first of all, my name is Cecilia, and I just want to thank you for your hard work and for representing Washington County to do the right thing. You guys have mentioned about Bill 2358, which is the overtime for farm workers. And you've mentioned that the bill needs more work. Do not forget that farm workers have been working for generations and generations. And they are not receiving health care because they're considered temporary or seasonal. Also, the wages are very not being considerate in terms of providing them with the funding that they need to support their family. We keep these farm working families minimum poverty. We cannot eradicate poverty. We cannot eradicate change for an equitable and inclusive society, community, if we do not take care of our hardworking families. As a worker, when I will go find a job, I try to find a job that will protect me, that will give me healthcare for me and my children. Otherwise, I will not afford it. And I believe that it's overdue. So I urge you to please keep advocating, and we're here to support in any ways that we can support, because that is very critical. And as you mentioned, it is critical that we bring everyone at the table. We bring also those farm owners to come to the table, because it is a business. And they also have to be responsible. Thank you for the hard work, and let's continue working for equity, diversity, and inclusion in all of our sectors.
Appreciate your comments, and I want you to know that I personally talked to the Farm Bureau and to some farm owners in Washington County and asked them, please come to the table. And I know that there are some that are willing and working on trying to figure that out, but we all have to do this together. So thank you, and please make sure you get, I know you know how to get hold of us. So just let's talk more on the phone, okay? 0213. Okay. Last one up, 0205.
And thank you for your. I have a bit of a frustration on the legislative process that I think is shared by probably you, and that is when a bill reaches finality or nearer it, and a flaw is discovered, it appears that, you know, you're faced with the choice of either take it as it is, if you can't make an improvement. I'll give you one brief example, and there are probably others that are more important, but in the safe storage bill, firearm safe storage bill, that I believe will go into effect within about 30 days. The governor signed it, and it was in effect for 90 days from when she signed it. There are no standards for the security devices, because those are going to be developed by the Oregon Health Authority and the state police and whatnot at some future date. Now, a suggestion was made that there was an easy fix for that, and that was adopt the California standard. California has a long history with this, and it would have been very easy for Oregon to adopt that standard. And if you go to Costco today, on sale is a really nifty biometric gun storage container. They're on sale, actually, and they have a very nice sticker on it that says approved by the California Department of Justice. But if we buy one of those here, have no idea if that's going to be approved by this future standard. And I just use that as an example of what I think is a correctable flaw that was identified a year ago, but it couldn't get into the system. And it's just sloppy work. It could be done better, and it's a little frustrating.
Not certain to be able to, you know, I don't provide time to, because I mean, that was a bill that worked on with many legislators, and I appreciated our many conversations that we had. And I think that the legislative process can be extremely frustrating, because sometimes there is that. I'll give you an example, even in the bag bill, you know, the banning of the plastic, single-use plastic bag. That we find issues, and whether in the timing that we can't get it corrected to put it right back through, again, through committee or through process, that we commit to working forward and coming up with fixes in future legislative sessions, such as with this single-use plastic bag bill. We realized that we weren't able to put in something about being able to use wheat waste or hemp waste. And that is actually a technology that's happening, that people are making bags out of that. Well, the bag bill that we passed actually didn't allow them to use that. And that's against what we're trying to do. We want it to ban plastic, not reusable. So I'm giving you that example of something that we needed to come back and fix, and look at, you know, potentially if there needs to be changes addressed. But I did know that it seemed to me that there was a change or something done in the oversight of OHA when the bills were combined as well. But I can certainly follow up with you too as well.
And just to follow up a little bit, I find it frustrating a lot myself, and I think we all do find it a little frustrating, but the fact is that, you know, even when we see that there's something that really needs to be in a bill, we also have to, you know, have bills that will pass. And when we can't get agreement on an issue to a piece to put in a bill, we have to go with what we can get done, not what, as somebody said that I don't always agree with, you have to do what you can do, and not what you'd like to do sometimes.
Okay, so before we wrap up, is there anybody with any questions that didn't have a ticket and would like to get their question asked? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just real quickly on the farm worker issue. The National Labor Relations Act affords all of us the right to collect bargaining and form a union, but it exempts farm workers. In California, with Cesar Chavez and their farm workers union, what we did is took the National Labor Relations Act and enacted the Agricultural Labor Relations Act, a mirror language with the same rights. You talk about equity, that's it. So I urge you, we can come to the table and repeat it. I don't care how many times. You all know what it is. You know what bargaining rights are. Please support us, the farm workers. That's all we need. We had a death, as you will know, from the last key, because somebody didn't have the common sense to know what was right and wrong when you send workers out to earn a profit for you. Please, you know what needs to be done.
So we're having a dialogue, and so what I want to say to you is absolutely. And I just got done saying that one of the bills that I'm the proudest of this time was one that had come back 12 times. And it's a situation where you have to be creative, you've got to make it a priority, and you've got to work it through to get it, as the senator said, passed. And so I'm there for you, and this can be right up there. But there's two of us, so, you know, we need to get started, and there's three. But you need to talk to the folks that were working the hardest and were the leaders on this other bill. I wasn't even asked to be a leader on this bill. Now, I would have voted for it. I told them flat out, I'll vote for anything you can get to me. But they couldn't get anything to me. And so that's the point. And if you want me to be more of a leader and more of a chief on it, then get me in there at the start. Because I'm more than willing to work on compromise with others. And I feel like that's an area where I can do some good work. But I'm ready.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, wanting to be respectful of everybody's time, and thank you so much for coming tonight. If there's something specific you'd like to get addressed, Carolyn over there is Rep. McLain's staff. So if you have something specific you'd like to have for Rep. McLain, go see Carolyn and she'll get your name and email and get you the information. Nicole in the back is Rep. Sollman's staff, and she can help you out. And then for Senator Riley, it would be Linda and myself. So if there are specific issues you'd like to have addressed and didn't get addressed tonight, come see us real quickly and we'll get your information and try to get it back to you. Thank you again so much. Round of applause for our wonderful staff. Thank you.
I want to just say, Captain and Anushka, can you raise your hand? These are two of my interns, and I want to tell them thank you for being with us during this session. And then also, again, if you want any of the paperwork or any of the emails, let us know. And I was told on my agenda that I got a 2-minute wrap up. But I do want to tell you that there was some money that came into Forest Grove for medically vulnerable students at the Oak Grove Academy for special needs students. And it was a big deal. And so that bill passed and we were really proud of it. And also for transportation lovers, we passed our transportation accessibility bill. And so we're going to get folks that have special needs or can't walk or are on, bikes and have to use transit. They get to sit on all of the ODOT committees, and we're going to make sure we've got better representation for folks that have some problems with accessibility on our mass transit. So anyway, that's my conclusion.
And the only tree part of the gun bill was taken out. I just got an answer on that, so there was a change done at the end of section on that, so I'll touch base with you on that. Thank you so much, everybody. It takes a village, all of you, our team, high school interns, college interns and staff, and thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.